everybody. Happy Friday. Nice to see everybody here. My name is Callie Cantos. I'm a clinical social worker in the field for approximately 30 years, believe it or not. I've been doing private practice for about 12, and I'm also expanding my services into practice consulting and coaching. As we all know, COVID has turned our worlds upside down, and practice as we knew it is no longer. We have the foundation of as we knew it, but now it's so different in regards to so many different things that we need to think about, especially when it comes to health and safety and what's the best way to provide our services. The purpose of today's presentation and chapter chat is really to open up a dialogue. I hope everybody can jump in because that's what's going to make it the best learning experience, and also to unite us. Just as a side note, I do also run a private practice action work group meeting every month. If you go to either my website or an email, or you can email Amelia, we can send you the link to where the page is on the website. Please feel free to register and join us. We usually have various discussions on various topics. It's all things private practice, whether you're in practice or not. If you're interested, you're more than welcome to attend. So with that, change this. Part of what we're going to do today is I'd like to open it up for some brief introductions. Just say a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what prompted you to attend today, what questions do you have? So this way I can gear my information toward some of those questions. I'm going to review a little bit about the HEROES Act and what it is. Even though it's ended, it's still a guideline as to things to think about and protocols to implement as we return to the office, should we decide to return to the office, and some of that is all unknown. I will go over a little bit regarding my reopening experience. I am in the office, but again, that is something very personal and individualized to everybody, and your experiences and what your office looks like and protocols and such. And then we'll open it up to a dialogue. So with that, as introductions, I'd like to give a few minutes and see who's here and say hello. You could either utilize the chat or unmute yourself. My name is Callie Cantos. I am the owner of Cantos Psychotherapy and Your Healthy Business. My office is located in West Babylon, New York on Long Island.
My name is Beth Gallegos, and I have a private practice in Grinnell, Iowa. I reopened my practice to in-person last June, so June of 2021. I am doing both in-person and virtual through telehealth. I still require masks, and I have procedures like that. I make sure and clean things afterwards. I have an air purifier, and I'm just attending today first to thank you for doing this, and also to see what other people are doing. I have not had any problems with anybody's willingness to wear masks. Everybody has complied, and I do have a form that I adapted from NASW that I have everybody sign before they come.
Fantastic. Great job. Welcome.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Reed-Landon. I am in Westchester, New York, and I had a private practice that was physical in the office. So I start again, speaking right now virtually, but also.
Jennifer, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I'm having a hard time hearing you. I don't know if you can talk closer to the microphone.
Okay, sure. Can you hear me now?
You sound like you're in a tunnel.
Okay, I'll write in the chat.
Okay, that would be fantastic because we still want to hear from you. Thank you. Someone else want to say hello? In the chat, I see some people from Syracuse. Welcome, Arizona. We have Manhattan, North Carolina, Missouri. Fantastic. Indianapolis.
Hi, my name is Lori Anello. I'm a therapist. I live in Rockland County, New York. I've been a therapist for 40-something years. I also work in a school, so I have a part-time private practice, 12 patients and under, and I've been doing telehealth since COVID started. And I have no desire at this point. I'm 63 years old. Have no desire to return to in-person. I don't work with adolescents. They're the one group I think does need in-person. And that's the story. But I wanted to listen. And, you know, I often wonder about my own resistance to returning to in-person. I work in two elementary schools, so I'm very busy and around people a lot of the time and COVID sensitive. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Laura. Welcome.
Thank you.
A few more people. We have Janice from San Francisco. Good morning. Melissa Greasy from California. Welcome. Thank you, everybody. Great, great. Boy, we have people from all over. This is fantastic. So, as we move forward here, just a gentle reminder, anything that we discuss today is educational in nature because it is a sensitive topic. Anything that we go over does not constitute legal advice. You always, any class, any presentation you attend, you always want to check with your malpractice carrier and your private practice attorney for all matters that get discussed. This does not constitute a business relationship. And you always want to do checks and balances because as much as there may be commonalities in the way that we practice in our field, there's still going to be different nuances, whether it be from state to state and practice to practice. So just a gentle reminder with that. Okay. Myself, I am primarily in the office, but I do offer some telehealth sessions as needed, which I'll go over. Okay. So I'm going to jump into the HEROES Act. If you have any specific questions, please feel free to put them in the chat as well. And we will, when I open it up for the dialogue, I'll go through the questions and kind of answer them as well. Okay. New York State had enacted something what's called the HEROES Act. And the purpose of the HEROES Act through the Department of Labor was to protect private sector employees against exposure and disease during airborne infectious disease outbreaks such as COVID-19. Now, this is something I'm sure that we're all aware of with all the questionnaires and the temperatures that we had to do and the masks and the logging and the sanitizing and all that. All that protocol was implemented not just from the CDC, but in New York State, the HERO Act was implemented to reinforce the implementation in all businesses. They also forced employers to expand on sick leave, paid family leave, and disability benefits, and this was mandatory, as well as protocols for precautionary orders and quarantine and isolation, etc., if anybody had gotten COVID-19. Okay. Also, that the law was implemented in May 5th, 2021. It started when designated employers were required to provide a copy of the adopted airborne infectious disease exposure prevention plan and post the same in a visible and prominent location within each work site. The Department of Labor, which on the bottom left is the link to the website. On that page, there is a sample protocol that the Department of Labor has offered any and all businesses. It's general to all businesses, but it can give some ideas. Some of the outline that Laura had just mentioned, how she runs her office, is similar to what I'm going to go over because I have my setup a little bit the same as well. And again, as business owners, we're going to make our own decisions as to what and how much and what we're tracking, etc. And the other thing also is, God forbid, there is an exposure, you want to be able to have the appropriate documentation in efforts to defend that we're following whatever laws and guidelines and protections. Because in the end, we are businesses and we want to make sure that our malpractice carrier is going to cover us in case there's anything that occurs. Very, very important to think of that. On March 17th, the HEROES Act ended. The private sector employers are no longer required to implement the workforce safety plans. What I've done, which I'll go over, is I've implemented some of it. Initially, I implemented a lot more. As things lighten up, I also have lightened up my requirements as well, which I'll go over. Okay, a little bit about my practice. I have my own room. I don't share it with anybody. I had to pivot and make some changes from my old office where I was and find new space because of COVID. So I had to do a major overhaul in my practice and location. I managed to find an office with a window, which I know is a rare commodity. And what I've done for a sneeze guard, I have taken a tension rod with a clear shower curtain and I put it across the room. Initially last year, when I first opened the office and things were a little bit more heated, part of my protocol that all clients needed to wear masks. I offer the sanitizer and wipes. The shower curtain was the sneeze guard. Everybody got their temperature reading. COVID questionnaires were answered every single time. Office sanitizing, anytime that there was an exchange of a patient, the window would get open. My chairs, which I had bought plastic chair coverings to put on the club chairs that I have, got sprayed with Lysol and wiped down, door handles, etc. There was also a checklist that I had that every time I sprayed, I notated the date and time. And also in my office, and part of my enrollment paperwork, I designed what the office policy was specifically for COVID-19, the protocol. The signs around my office, masks are required, pretty much the same thing what we would see in a doctor's office. Last year, when I was open from April to Thanksgiving, right around Thanksgiving when things started heating up, I shut down the office and went full telehealth again. From telehealth, come April, May, I reopened the office again. As things lightened up, I've made certain decisions to not do the questionnaire. I no longer do the temperature. I still sanitize. I still do some of the other things. The shower curtain sneeze guard that I have across my room, I utilize that as needed, and I'll get into that in a little bit. The mask is required. For the most part, my clients, because I tell them over the phone, this is non-negotiable. If they want to be seen by me and become my client, that mask has to be on. And I'm a bit of a stickler with it, as we all should be. And again, it depends our comfort zone. If people start giving pushback regarding any sort of wearing of the mask, I'm not the therapist for you. I offer you referrals and off you go. Where I wiggle with that is if someone's having an emotional moment, or sometimes if they feel like the mask is stifling them, if they're crying, if they're upset, I don't want to hurt anybody. I don't want anybody hyperventilating over a mask. What I will do is that's when I'll pull the shower curtain across, give them a moment to take their mask off, do what they have to do, blow their nose, whatever the case may be. I have an air purifier on their side of the room, on their half of the room, and give them their moment. What I found is their response to that is favorable, where I give them the chance to have their moment, but also they also know, okay, either the curtain stays across and we continue, or the mask goes back on, and then I make a judgment call. Does the curtain stay, or does the curtain get pulled back over again? Regardless of the scenario, my mask is always on. I have a supply of masks in the office. I have the blue masks. I wear the N95. That's just my personal choice. And then I make decisions accordingly. I've also gotten to the point, and again, it becomes a judgment call. Clients at certain points sometimes, and again, we all know this as clinicians, when do we touch our clients? Do we hold their hand, etc.? There's been a handful of times where sometimes we can't lose sight of that personal touch. And again, this is my opinion, that I will sit next to the client and I will hold their hand or put my hand on their shoulder. I'm masked up, there's sanitizer, we do all the protocols, everything. But again, it's a judgment call as to what each and every one of us feels comfortable to do in that moment, okay? So that's how I choose to run my office. There has been instances where clients have, what I call, made the excuse to, I forgot my mask, etc. And on numerous occasions, I've handed the same patient a mask. The third time, I have said to them, if you don't come back in with your own mask, I'm canceling the session. Either clients will follow office policies or they leave. And if they leave, that's okay. That's their right, that's their decision. I offer them referral information if they want it, and off they go. So that seems to be working out. So far, so good. There has been 2 instances where clients have reported to me that they tested positive, where I've been in the room with them. Again, with all the protocols that I have in place, I know for me, I feel comfortable. And then you go through no different than if you're in a supermarket, which is how the various doctors that I spoke to, and I'm connected to LabCorp for some of the services that I provide, which offer urine testing. I check with the LabCorp rep, and although again, not medical advice, just to get a temperature reading, what the doctor's offices were doing. And she kind of explained the same thing, that things were starting to loosen up as well. So another doctor, an emergency room doctor, had said to me, we're getting to the point where it's no different if you were in a supermarket. So that's how I looked at it. So in the instances that when patients test positive, whether I've been in the room with them or not, they automatically, the part of the protocol, they automatically go into telehealth. It varies between 1 to 2 weeks to make sure that they're okay. What somebody can do, you can go back into the thermostat and the questionnaire. You can do all that. Pretty much, again, it's up to us what we choose to do. And those are some of the things how I've kind of learned how to be fluid in my practice to be able to see people face to face. I think the challenging part is not only for myself to have gotten comfortable to go back to the office, because we've all gotten spoiled being able to walk from one room to the other, hop on a monitor, and all of a sudden we're in session in our fuzzy slippers without having to get in the car and drive and gas and park and the whole 9 yards. I think clients have also gotten comfortable where, hey, can we just hop on the video today? I don't feel like driving. So it's being able to be fluid and kind of reflecting as to what it is that you want your practice to look like and what your protocols are. Sometimes I will allow that shift, but in my opinion, I prefer to see clients face to face, because for me, I feel my clients get a little bit more done in a private, safe place. I was finding no matter how many times I've said to my clients, you know, I felt like I was competing with the coffee pot, the child, the dog, the mailman, the spouse, technical difficulties. I was just getting fed up with it. And that's part of my decision of going back into the office. But I will be fluid with them. But if it becomes a consistent thing, I will say to them, I need to eyeball you before we continue telehealth. In efforts to reinforce the fluidity, because the other offshoot to this is we really don't know what the policies are going to be in the future, what the Office of the Professions are going to dictate from a licensure perspective, what insurance companies are going to dictate, what other entities are going to dictate, what Medicare's protocol and insurance companies, are they going to require a face-to-face visit, and how often? Are they going to require that we use their platforms, not our own? That opens up a whole other discussion. We're not prepared to go there. So there's a lot to consider. Not only our health and our patients' health and the setup of our offices, but we also have to take a look at ourselves and see, you know, where are we at with this and what do we feel comfortable in doing, but also what's the best way to treat our clients ethically as well. All that remains to be seen as we move through this, and as the executive order, the federal executive order lifts, which we're not there yet because they just extended it to October. So we still don't know. So we live for the moment and keep moving through with the idea and preparation for what the future may potentially hold. I know I said a lot. I threw a lot regarding my practices and how I work. So with that, I'm going to open it up to discussion, and we take it from there. I hope I didn't make everybody's head spin. I did throw a lot, so. Thoughts?
Well, I'll say something if it's okay.
Absolutely. Hi.
I'm Melissa. I'm out in California. That was really helpful to hear your sort of process. And I don't know if I don't think I'm alone here. I feel kind of like a little bit like I've been I'm kind of out here trying to figure it out. I feel like we haven't gotten a lot of guidance. And so if they're like formal guidance, so I guess if there's a resource where there is sort of formal guidance, what we should be doing, that would be really helpful to reference. I'm going to call my liability insurance today because that's actually something I haven't done. I have returned to private in person, but with only about 5 clients. The majority of my clients I still see online. But I just had some questions about, so one thing that I've been doing is I am requiring vaccination to see folks in person. So that's something I've been doing, and I'm just curious about, like, I know people have some strong opinions about that. That's my boundary. And I guess that's pretty much it. I guess that's pretty much where I'm at. It's just like any formal guidance for us, for social workers. I'm a social worker, licensed clinical social worker. And if there's anyone else out there requiring backs, because I've like kind of put that out there, and yeah, it's just interesting also how we are sharing information with one another, but we're also kind of not. So just kind of curious if we can maybe chat about that a bit, maybe.
Great points. Thank you. Thank you. Just as a side note, because we have people from so many different states, the statements that I'm making, because I'm in New York, I'm aware of New York things. So I would encourage anybody outside of New York to do the research to see what applies in your state. Okay. When we were in the heat of COVID, when we all checked with our malpractice insurance and with, I want to say either NASW or with the Office of the Profession, somewhere along the line, one of the things that was implemented was if people were vaccinated, you can offer them the option to be seen face to face, and if not, you can do telehealth. So it wasn't seen as an abandonment of a patient. You're offering them which service. Now, it was up to the client to decide if they were unvaccinated, if telehealth was acceptable to them or not, and then they made the decision if they wanted to stay or not. So I can't imagine, again, you got to check with malpractice. This is a legal thing, legal ethical thing. So I can't imagine it would be considered bad by mandating the vaccine, because you are looking at safety protocols, you know. So, but again, that's something, because we're covered under malpractice, you want to double check with them. In regards to a universal protocol, I haven't necessarily seen, like, this is what NASW does, for example. I could be wrong. Maybe it's on a website somewhere. That's something maybe Amelia would know better. But some time ago, I had done a chapter chat on COVID and office opening and stuff. In a moment, I can find the link and I could put it. I have it on my website. If you'd like to take a look at it, it might give you some ideas. The information on there may be old because it is from when we first shut down, but it may give you some ideas as to some sort of guidance. It's a combination from the Department of Labor, CDC, OSHA, et cetera, from all the federal organizations. There may be some links from NASW with some forms and stuff like that. So in regards to a protocol, I haven't seen anything unless there's something that I haven't seen either. So.
And I just want to clarify, I don't know if I was clear. I'm still seeing my clients who have chosen not to get vaccinated. I'm still seeing them via telehealth. So, and kind of like you talked about, giving them the choice if they want to try to find someone who they can see in person, regardless of vax status, which quite honestly, no one has been able to. Most practices I know are requiring proof of vaccination to see in person where I am. But I did want to say that I am offering that option for telehealth. So I wasn't sure if I was clear.
Sure. The way that someone had written in here regarding the tested positive, the way that I handled that situation is as follows. This individual happened to be the last client for the day. I scrubbed down the office. When people do come to the office, I do ask them if they're vaccinated or not vaccinated. Initially, I was mandating cards and having copies of vaccine cards. I've lightened up on that. how I choose to run it, because I have the masks, the window, the purifier, and that shower curtain for me as that sneeze guard is imperative. I will see somebody who's not vaccinated, but I'm more hyper aware of where they're at, where they're going, what they're doing. I make sure that my protocols are strict, a little bit stricter. They're strict across the board. If I would have tested positive and there was more exposure, then I probably would have contacted the Department of Health and got more information how to handle it if more people were to test positive. So it becomes a judgment call. That's how I handled it. I've been fortunate so far. I have a mixed bag who's tested positive and who's vaccinated and who's not. I would say in the last year, if 2 people tested positive, it's a lot. There's been one in the office. Most have been outside of the office. They all know that if they got the sniffles, even if they're not sure, we're doing telehealth. That's it. Like, don't hesitate to tell me if you're uncertain, for the safety of everybody, stay home. And we'll just flip flop. And I'll be in the office and do telehealth 1 minute and see a patient live the next. So that's how I handle the positives. Okay. Jimmy had asked about asking clients to wear masks and not see facial expressions. You'd be surprised with the facial expressions. And I've kind of incorporated it into my style. Depending on what mask they're wearing, if someone's smiling, you could see the cheeks go up. I will say to somebody, I said, and I'll crack a joke. I'm like, these darn masks. I'm like, I have to ask. I said, are you smiling? And we'll kind of get a chuckle out of it. If I'm really not sure, I'll ask them, how are you feeling? I'd like to see your facial expression. Sometimes what clients will do is they'll pull it down, show me their expression, and put it back up. My style for me, has offered some form of fluidity with my patients where we're still safe and have gotten to the point where everybody's comfortable with making that judgment call with safety at first and still get the job done. So it becomes a judgment call. And if I'm not sure, I flat out ask them, what are you feeling? I can't see your face with the mask. Tell me what it is that you're feeling. It takes a little bit to be able to look through the mask, and it hones in a lot more intuition, or what's the word? Like, we're able to hone in a lot more in our observations, not just from a general sense, but even more fine details now because of the mask. So I don't know if hopefully that's helpful. Okay. There is a PDF of the slides in the chat for you to download. Jamie had also said, you don't cancel your other clients to tell them that you've been exposed. Turns out I wasn't exposed, and I didn't necessarily have to cancel other clients because that's just how my schedule fell. I felt comfortable continuing. I felt it was safe enough with all my protocols, the sanitizing, the window, the air purifier, the shower curtain, etc.
Kylie, I got a message I think someone accidentally sent to me instead of the whole group, and they basically said that they find success working with adults and teenagers when doing telehealth, but it feels nearly impossible to do therapy with children under 12. Is this everyone else's experience? And do you have any suggestions or tips about engaging, I guess, children through telehealth?
Can I answer that?
Sure.
I work in an elementary school. In the first year of COVID, I basically did all telehealth with the children and their families. So, I found myself having to be very specific with parameters, and making sure that who is in the room, who was listening, do the children have some privacy, making sure that there's no extra media around in the background, siblings, because obviously, sometimes for observation reasons, it's helpful to kind of take a look at the room and what's going on. But, you have to, just like in person, you have to read your audience and be very specific and hopefully have some kind of relationship with the adults in the home. And, the nice piece is being able to, as necessary, include the adults in the process, because certainly when the kids were, learning from home, there was a lot that wasn't happening, and, obviously often a need for structure and, that kind of thing. So I just think the whole, telehealth piece with children, certainly needs its own parameters. And, the young children, 45 minutes is not really a realistic time frame. If we can do like 15 minutes, we're doing well. And then, at some point include the family or whatever, or switch it up somehow. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you. Thank you. Again, a lot of it is judgment calls. We have to figure out who our clientele is, what patient we're servicing, and what is best practices for that client. And it's become a challenge because, in the office, out of office, telehealth, the tolerance of telehealth, interruptions, service connections, platform issues, login issues. I mean, it doesn't end. Someone had, let me see who wrote this. Jamie had wrote, when we're in the heat of COVID, now that we do have vaccines and treatments, but the numbers are still very high. My understanding, when I'm not sure about something, I start asking doctors, medical doctors. I find every medical doctor I can get my hands on and ask questions. And the consensus across the board that I'm getting as of recently is, yes, there's treatment. There's less people landing on respirators. And if they do or pass away, it complicates other medical issues. I follow my gut meter. If my gut's telling me the numbers are going up and I start feeling unsafe, then I shut it down and I flip to telehealth. I could see that happening in the fall. I do a lot of EMDR work. So I have found that I'm not comfortable doing it on the video screen. So even when I shut down, those people, the patients that I feel at that point the EMDR would be most beneficial, then I'll see those people in the office separately, individually, although at that point the main service would be telehealth. So I make decisions, for example, like the summer months I'm in the office, telehealth is secondary. The winter time, if the numbers and I feel I'm unsafe, I make telehealth the primary and the office is secondary as needed. So I've made the decision how I changed my practice to be fluid that way with all the safety protocols. But again, everybody's got their own comfort zone, their own medical concerns. You got to make decisions as to what you feel is best for your practice, because what I do may be different from what you choose to do, and how you choose to run your practice. There's no right or wrong, but we have to find the comfort zone between what we feel comfortable with, how we best service the client ethically, legally, etc., and the requirements of the various entities, whether it be licensure, Department of Labor, Health Department, malpractice, insurance companies, whether you're in or out of, but whatever the case may be, there's a lot more moving parts than what we're used to. So that's where I say we're business owners first. We have to make business decisions, and our service is psychotherapy. Whether we're selling bagels, widgets, or psychotherapy, we're business owners first. And unfortunately, that's the shift in thinking that we need to start making, because that's what we've turned into. And it's not from insurance, it's just from the way the world is changing. That's how I look at it, and it seems to work okay for me so far. So. Anyone else? Thoughts, questions, comments? Say hello. Amy, hi.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thanks, and thank you for this discussion. I'm I'm a New York State licensed therapist as well, and in New York City. And when you were saying about the checking in with the malpractice and the lawyers and this and that, when going to telehealth, I was thinking, not New York City, we just all did it. I think well, I mean, I can't speak for all therapists clearly, but none of my colleagues, we didn't have a choice. You know, one day the city was shut down and that was it. And I think it's like, now I understand we're not necessarily in the same state of emergency. I know another person had commented at the beginning about not wanting to go back to the office, and I find myself in a similar situation. And I really appreciate the efforts that you've gone to keep things safe in your office. I honestly don't think I could handle that. I think it feels like a lot to me. And I do EMDR too, but I actually am comfortable doing it online. And I found a good tool that's been working quite well. Online, I think it has a lot of great perks. It also has, everything has pros and cons. But one thing I guess I've thought about from an ethical standpoint is, there have been a few people recently who have asked me when I'm going back to the office. And right now I don't have a plan to. For a lot of different reasons, but I think it's also challenging in places such as New York City, and maybe other people on the call might have this as well. Like, office rent is a big deal for us. It's like another apartment, So if people are especially going to just want to see telehealth, like I guess that's where I'm kind of like, I don't know of what my question is exactly. It's just I suppose I'm struggling with that, like, I would like to see some people in person, and I think some people would be more productive in person, but I also like the outlay just on a business level, the outlay for going back into an office with most people probably are not going to want to see me in person. And I now have people in different parts of the city. It would be very inconvenient for them to, maybe go to my neighborhood, and I have people in different parts of the state, and I'm a registered telehealth provider in Florida. So like, some people I'm not gonna, and also I'm licensed in Maryland now. So like, I have people that are never gonna see me in person probably again. So I guess I'm just wondering about the ethics of all of that, and in terms of like what we do for ourselves as practitioners. I think you were talking about like what's best for your practice, and also personally, I have aging parents, and I'm sitting in the state of Iowa with my aging parents, and telehealth makes it possible for me to be here a little longer and work. So I guess I guess I'm like the lady who was talking about not wanting to go back into an office space. I would, in a way, like I'd like to part of the time, but logistically, it's a real challenge in New York City,
Yes.
Just with the real estate situation. And then you're sharing, and then like that, it seems like it would bring up a whole can of worms with COVID. And anyway, sorry to go on. I'm mostly, I guess, musing, and if anyone has any other thoughts or comments, I appreciate it. I thank you again for having this discussion.
You're very welcome. And you bring up such valid points, because the very points that you identified, and myself included, we all face that on a daily basis because we just don't know. The reality is until the federal executive order lifts, whenever that will be, until that lifts, nobody knows. Nobody knows which way we're going to go. Nobody knows what the new rules are going to be. Nobody knows what the requirements. If you take insurance, whether in or out of network, we don't know what the insurance companies are going to require. There's so much unknown that we could only take it one day at a time.
Could I interrupt for 1 second? Because I thought I had read something recently that Medicare had decided, and I don't actually take insurance real well. One person I do, but like I opted out of that a while ago. And but I had read on the telehealth.org newsletter that Medicare was not requiring now in-person visits in order to reimburse people, because I think of all the stuff that came up through COVID. Now, I mean, obviously we'd want to check that because my memory is a little faulty and I kind of read it briefly. So, but maybe that is a newer development. I'm not sure.
I've kind of lost track of it, to be honest with you, because all that implementation, whether you're to see patients in office, a lot of it, my understanding, will be implemented after the end of the executive order. What I have noticed, I happen to be an in-network provider, and I happen to notice that some insurance companies are having a sign attestations that we will see the evaluation appointment in office. Now, what that means for other state licensures and seeing people, outside of our vicinity, et cetera, that I'm not sure, because the field has changed so much. My clients are more local. So I don't know the answer to that. If someone else has other feedback, please, feel free to chime in. But I think that's part of the upheaval, that the dust hasn't settled yet in the changes in this field. So we honestly don't know. In regards to the office, in my Your Healthy Business practice coaching and consulting, I do offer a free vision call. If anybody would like to call, it runs about 15-20 minutes. If anybody would like to reach out and schedule that, I will have my contact information. Please feel free to sign up. We can always brainstorm. It's free to NASW members, and anybody that's on this call, I would welcome even to say hello. Please feel free to reach out. So I think there's a lot of decisions, a lot of things, and we also have to check our comfort zone. And also, sometimes we're not going to know until we move through this, and what the regulations are going to be, and what is it that we may have to do. The people that are more out of state, okay, you may not be able to see them, but then what regulations are going to either force the issue, or are we going to have to refer them out, or nobody knows. Nobody knows. So in the
Well, I
meantime,
think if you're licensed in the state where somebody's
Mhm.
living, or like Florida, actually, even though I have issues with Florida on a variety of levels, but like one thing that's actually quite easy is to become a registered telehealth provider. They don't require you to be licensed in Florida, only to be licensed in your own state at an independent clinical level. You do have to. They don't even actually charge you to be a registered telehealth provider. There's a thing you go through. There's something that you go through in the gosh, I'm sorry. There's a process, and there's some hoops to jump through, but it's actually not such a big deal. But the one thing is, like, then they say this allows you to practice telehealth in Florida legally, but you can't have an in-person office. So it's like, because you're not licensed technically, but you are able to do it then legally per the state.
Right.
Anyway, just wanted to add that. Like,
Thank you for saying that, Amy. That's really very helpful information. I certainly want to be a snowbird, and I'm very interested in that. For sure. The other thing is, you were talking about, people were talking about, rents in offices. And, when you look at the economy, you look at the rents in offices, and you look at insurance companies. I used to not take insurance. Now I, kind of felt, for me and for other people, it's better to take insurance. We're in the profession to help people, but I'm having a terrible time getting reimbursed in a timely way. It's really a problem. And then on top of it, I'm considering my colleagues in Rockland County. Most of them don't take beacon options anymore. They got out because they don't even give you very much money. So this is a very difficult situation on a lot of levels, because, we want to help people. And at the same time, this is a business, and, people need to be accountable. And I do appreciate these, different conversations that NASW has certainly joined with Beacon Options to have some conversations. I hope it helps. It's not helped me so far, but, a little bit. It sounds like there's some movement, but it's very slow. And it feels very unfair to the provider.
Yeah. Laura, if you'd like, give me a call, because there's certain nuances that when the way that our contracts are set up with the insurance companies that dictate the flow of payment, not necessarily how much, but the smooth payment. Yeah. I'm not saying that there aren't going to be glitches. And at least for me, when the glitches happen, they're doozies. But I have found that depending how you're set up from a contractual credentialing perspective, it kind of dictates how the payment flow goes. So if you'd like to brainstorm, please feel free to reach out to me.
Is your number on the chat?
There we go.
Thank you.
That's all my contact information. If you'd like to do a screenshot, you can do a screenshot.
I will just do so. Thank you.
And also the PDF that was posted up in the chat has this information also.
Okay.
Okay. Just doing a time check. We have about 10 more minutes. Any other thoughts, comments, feedback about today's presentation? Topics for future chapter chats? Anybody would like to see certain things?
I'm sorry, I'm not seeing your phone number in the chat. Am I not looking in the right place?
I could put it in the chat, but it's on the screen.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got it.
You got it?
The I just got something from Beacon Options yesterday telling me I had to be a Medicaid person and I have to do A, B, and C in order to do that. And then I'm worried they're gonna kick me off the panel. They kicked my own therapist off the panel because she couldn't upload something to CAQH in a timely way. I don't like that kind of stress. Don't like it.
Unfortunately, being business owners is stressful, whether we want it or not.
It is.
Additional discussions about handling all this going forward? Sure, if there's a topic or a need, I'm open to pulling something together. Thank you, Connie. You're very welcome. You're very welcome. I'm glad I can help. It's important, just as a side note, and again, I have that private practice action work group that meets monthly. The opportunity that Sam Fletcher, our executive director, Amelia, director of operations, I think that's who you are, right? And the executive board that I've recently cycled off of has offered the opportunity to really represent and back us up. The response that I've seen and the doors that I've been able to open would not be possible without the support of the executive team. So I just want to say, thank you, Amelia, Sam, executive board. And I would encourage everybody, as busy as we are, please find a place to get involved, even if you cycle through, every so often, once a quarter, whatever the case may be. It's important that we show our face. If anybody that's in New York State, I don't know when that next Beacon meeting is, but please cycle through. The woman that is there, the representative, she seems open. She seems like she wants to help. Can't be a complaint session, but if we go there with an openness and the professionals that we are, I do believe that in time, there will be a change.
Yeah, Yolanda, I agree with you. She did respond to me.
She did respond. She was responsive.
She did. Yeah, she did.
I can get more information. I think we can get information to everybody's email address that joined the chat today. There is something what's called the Agr Committee and Subcommittees. Again, I got to get more information. I can't fully explain it, but being on those committees is very helpful because it gets information up the food chain to address issues that exist as private practitioners. I don't know about other states, but if you contact your local NASW office or your state chapter, there has to be a similar process, I would assume. I would encourage everybody to get involved because times are different. The door has been opened. We have to advocate for ourselves. We have to unite. In New York State, there's either plus or minus 60,000 social workers. That's one heck of a voice, let alone what's across the country. Can you imagine if we all united the ruckus we can cause? That's one ruckus that I don't think anybody will ever forget. So I can't stress enough. I was never involved. I happened to fall into the position by fluke. And I got to tell you, it was one of the nicest experiences in a very long time. So I can't express enough, whether it be a chapter chat, a beacon meeting, a private practice action work group, speak to me individually, speak to Sam, Amelia. There's different representatives. If you can't make a meeting, please reach out and speak to somebody individually. There's listservs. There's plenty of resources to be able to express our concerns, because if we're going to make change in our profession, this is the time to do it. The doors are there. We have to walk through it. And we've been waiting for those doors to be open for a very long time. So that's my spiel regarding that. Any other
Holly?
thoughts or comments? Yeah, Amy?
Yeah, I also wanted to add, because just for people who are, interested in this idea, there is the Department of Defense is collaborating with, I'm not sure if it's the NESW or the ASWB, actually, around an interstate compact for social workers, similar to PsyPact that psychologists have. And it's in its, I guess you could call it a beta. They have a draft of what they're proposing, and I don't know which states would be involved yet, but gosh, and I'm sorry, I can't remember exactly what it's called, but you can find the information online, and it's something that I'm following, and other people might be interested in that too, because I'm sure, like many of us, we ended up during COVID with clients scattered to the four winds, and not all of them have returned, and I think that's why I ended up getting licensed in Maryland, and because I wanted to keep working with somebody who wanted to keep working with me, and I wanted to do it legally. So I did that. But like, I would be great if we could not have to necessarily get licensed in every single state that we have someone move to who might want to continue to see us and not have to start all over again with somebody. So
I'm sorry, Amy, not to cut you off, but I'm looking.
No, I'm sorry.
And I know Amelia's got information because she dropped the link in the chat. So I want to
Yeah.
give her a chance, and then we'll wrap it up.
Thank you, Amy, for bringing this up. So
Sure.
important. I did drop into the chat box information on the Interstate Compact. To give a real short synopsis, NASW has been working on this with the Department of Defense. So it's kind of gotten into its final format, in which each state then has to lobby and advocate at their legislature for it to be adopted by that state. So we kind of have it in its draft final form. All the chapters are going out and trying to enact this within their legislative agenda. Speaking of New York State specifically, we are in a particularly uphill battle because it's the only state that has never adopted any interstate compact for any licensed profession. So it's not just for us social work. They don't do medical doctors. They don't do, hairdressing, state to state, anything. They don't have any professional compact in New York State. So this is going to be a large uphill battle for us. But as we see successes in other states, hopefully sooner, then we'll be able to use that as a model. But the link that I sent in the chat box is the best place to get the most up-to-date information. They're going to be doing listening sessions with social workers to hear about your perspectives on the draft language as it is before the legislative sessions begin, and ramp up starting in December to June.
Okay, great. And I think for New York State, there is a meeting either through NASW to discuss and brainstorm. And then there is a bigger meeting on a bigger level, an informational meeting, I believe. There's like an open discussion meeting where they want to hear the concerns regarding from members, constituents, et cetera, before I guess they pursue and make a decision. So during that open process, again, this is the time that we got to get involved. I know time is money. If we don't have a client, we're not making a dollar, but look at it that you're going to a doctor's appointment and investing, and do the best you can. Do the best you can. So
I just want to
fantastic.
thank Callie, thank everyone for joining us. I want to say about the chapter chats in particular, this is really, we see NASW New York State is we have the resources, we set the table. There's a conversation that you want to have with your colleagues, contact us. We'll support you to do that. Whether it's a, presentation where you want to share information, or you want to do something kind of like this and have a dialogue with your colleagues. We're always here to support one of those conversations. But thank you, Callie, again.
Thank you.
This was clearly very needed, and we will absolutely do another program on this as the need is there.
Thank you. Thank you, NASW. Thank you, everybody, for coming. And feel free to reach out, either Kanto Psychotherapy or Your Healthy Business. I offer a newsletter as well when preparing for launch. Please feel free to sign up for the newsletter, and have a fabulous weekend. Stay cool and stay in touch.
Thank you so
all.
much.
Thank you.